Fort Dakota. At that point, they didn't need it. There was enough people there. They didn't need the military presence. So the government was going to sell the buildings up there. And so what happened is this crew of guys decided they were in charge of selling this property. So they leave Sioux City, and just to describe it, they go up to Richland. So where Richland is at, if you go straight north of Elk Point, you're going to turn and go and cross.
Years of age at the time of her death and was known as Mother Wheeler. No Army nurse rendered more service to the sick and wounded soldier boys than she. Born near Elmira, New York on May 2nd, 1818, she became deeply interested in the war shortly after her marriage, and at the time of the Battle of Bull Run, she left her home in Pennsylvania and went to Washington to care for the sick and wounded. With the dying echoes of Bull Run, she began
one of my favorite things, we made an arbor for our parents. about 12 years old. Bill finally said, all right, Brett, get in here. And then we started working and learning how to do it.
The officer out there now leading those men forward is a good friend of mine, Paul Lehowitz, and actually his group is the first Nebraska reenacting group from the Omaha area, and they came up here today to participate. If you remember, you were at the battle here yesterday, they were the ones that took a canister shot from a haversack or other places, but otherwise, again, each man would have 40 rounds of ammunition that he carried into battle. And if you were a soldier, you had to have opposing teeth to tear off the paper cartridge and pour the gunpowder and then to place the bullet down the barrel. If you didn't have opposing teeth, you were assigned other duties like hospital duty or cooking or something like that. So you did have to have, again, opposing teeth, which made it hard on a lot of the southern boys.
Tactics never changed during the Civil War, getting very, very close before firing. And then also you can see there's quite a bit of smoke that's developed by firing rifles, and also the cannons here in a bit, and clear, and then they would resume battle.
And back during the Civil War, the question was often asked why a man living north of the Mason-Dixon line couldn't be buried south of it. And folks all know the answer to that. That's because he was not dead yet, so that happened.
You can about imagine once the experience started deserting in large numbers from the Confederate forces.
As the Confederate soldiers moved out from their position, you can see so they don't take as much fire from the, and now the cannons are starting on the Confederate side.
Actually, a retrograde movement, or a movement backwards by the Union Army at this time, is one of the more difficult things to maintain your lines, and so people don't desert, run away, or one person walking way too fast, the other one too slow. So this is a very difficult maneuver.
Fire!
Yesterday we had a battle that was representing a couple wagons out in the field, necktie. So Lee is the one that adopted the stars and bars as a recognizable flag that the Confederate troops could rally.
Now you can see Union troops taking the field. They're all at a
When the war first broke out, they didn't have, well, actually the South and the North had similar uniforms. And it wasn't until the North adopted the blue and the Confederacy the gray that you could actually tell one army from the other. Or in many cases, when they were pressing people into service later in the war, they had a lack of uniforms in the South. So it was tell if they were civilians or they were part of the Army.
Was the Confederates.
You can see how flanking fire on troops would be very devastating, because not only they would be kind of concentrating their attention to the front, all of a sudden from the left or the right, you would receive fire which would have devastating effects.
A group called the 13th U.S., which is out of the Sioux Falls, South Dakota area.
2 out of 3 people assigned to federal prisons in the North were veterans of the Civil War.
And in your hometown here, Canton, South Dakota, this area was settled by Civil War veterans who came out here then to homestead and to farm, but they were veterans. And
Bring up an interesting point, Dale, and that was the dates of Lee to Grant, and that was in April. But when you look back at the recent holiday that we have, Juneteenth, which is the 19th of June, it was that long the last of the slaves were freed in Galveston.
SDS youth for the students. But the Confederates, when they did retreat, that was the last battle that drove them out of the state of Missouri. After that, they went into Kansas, got down to the Arkansas River, went through the Oklahoma Territory, ended up in Texas, and really did not become an effective fighting unit anymore. Again, this battle happening in October of 1864, with the total war being over by April of 1865.
As the gunners clear their guns, I'd like to make a couple comments. My name is Dave Renley, and I've been helping get the reenactors here from number one. Give
Well, thank you again so much for coming. If we don't see you now, we'll have to put it together.
You know, a dead soldier's not supposed to. It's not.